Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access is here, and after spending 30 or so hours with it, I am prepared to share my opinion on it. Before we start, it is important to note that I am not Baldur's Gate or Dungeons & Dragons fan, so if you want opinion from fans, you are at the wrong place. I'll try to be as objective as possible. First of all, this is early access, so talking about bugs, glitches, optimization and such bollocks is pointless because, well, it is bloody early access. Also, if you want my opinion on if you should buy Baldur's Gate 3 now just to experience early access, you won't get it here. I am generally against early access and beta releases as they are worst possible version of the game you will ever play. If Baldur's Gate 3 or any other game that implements early access wasn't work related, I would never play it until full release. Now that those things are out of the way, let's talk Baldur's Gate 3.
Nine hells! Open the gates!
Fans of Baldur's Gate 3 were criticizing the game ever since it was revealed as being essentially Divinity Original Sin 3 with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set. Are they correct in their assumption that this is Divinity Original Sin 3 with Dungeons & Dragons rule set? Yes. Are they in the right to criticize the game because of it? Not really. The game uses same engine redesigned for Dungeons & Dragons, and that is the reason why it all looks pretty much the same, but it plays out quite differently. Amount of work that went into this game is clear, even in Act 1 only. Game looks fantastic. Best looking CRPG ever. Character models, locations, equipment, visual effects are all full of details and look brilliant. Audio work is also phenomenal. Music is catchy, atmospheric, yet not in your face. Voiceover is stellar, even though lip sync is bugged a lot in early access, but that will be fixed. Sound effects are mostly great too.
Tell that to the dead at the gate.
Shut it, Horns! I'd be lying dead next to the goblins if you'd stalled.
My duty is to this camp.
Oh, God forbid you risk your precious tail. But I shouldn't be surprised. Fullbloods ain't known for courage.
You see the tiefling's jaw clench. He's about to erupt.
Combat is simply fantastic, as Dungeons & Dragons rule set with tactical turn-based combat Larian Studios is known for blending just great. There are so many tactical options, it is ridiculous. Oh yeah, and elemental surface combinations are back from Divinity Original Sin, but are much more subtle this time around. Next to typical stuff like spells, weapon attacks and special abilities, there are now actions such as dip weapon into elemental surface to change damage type, throw item from inventory, shove enemies, hide, etc. Every character has action and bonus action, and each attack uses one of these. For example, you can choose to hide if out of enemy sights, which uses bonus action, and then shoot an arrow which consumes regular action point. Any kind of movement consumes movement points, which are separate thing altogether. I had so much fun with combat, even though it takes a while to get used to it if you aren't familiar with Dungeons & Dragons. Simply amount of things you have to consider leads to constant tactical improvements that emerge from failures as you start thinking outside of the box to create some ridiculous tactics. I can't even imagine all the things we should be able to do when game releases fully, considering that we can only level up to level 4 at the moment and that many classes and spells are missing. It is going to be a pain to balance it all, so good luck Larian in that department. At the moment, hide and shove are kinda OP as they can be utilized to great effectiveness by remaining hidden all the time during combat or by shoving enemies to instant death. Shove is so much fun regardless. Big tactical element in combat are advantages and disadvantages, which can lead to significant increase or decrease in chances of coming out victorious. Buffs, debuffs, terrain, elevation, flanking are all factors that are taken into account. I quite like this as it helps dealing with RNG heavy combat, which Dungeons & Dragons combat usually is. There are some things I would like changed, however. Sneak attack is not automatic, but we have to click on special sneak attack icon, which I find utterly redundant. It should be automatic. There is huge focus on verticality in Baldur's Gate 3 as every battlefield has many elevated positions and floors, and sometimes it all gets quite confusing. I understand that high ground is quite important because it gives advantage with ranged attacks and makes shove action amazing, but in some cases it gets crazy, especially with camera all over the place. Camera work is not good, and this is where Larians still have their work cut out, especially due to so much verticality. Thankfully, these are still early days. I also never liked in Divinity Original Sin how arrows and bolts behaved, as they have way too much arc and at times look cartoonish how these projectiles travel. Unfortunately, same thing is here. More explanation and details would be very welcomed for full release. For example, more detailed spell descriptions, detailed log entries for all actions including shove, more descriptive classes, etc. I'm sure that they will implement that for final release, as it is sorely missed at times. When it comes to writing and story, it is similar to Divinity Original Sin style, but more serious with some of the humor retained. Even the starting story bits and locations resemble a lot of Divinity Original Sin 2 early game. What I like a lot is immersive cinematic camera whenever we enter conversation and plenty of options on how to finish the dialogue. I like Larian style as they don't drown you in walls of text, but instead try to get the point across effectively.
Your voice cuts through the fog of confusion. You can see the creature's hold on them wavering. As its influence wanes, they clutch their heads, blinking in confusion.
Where are we? There was fire in the sky and then the voice. Oh gods, the voice! What happened?
I liked quest design mostly as it led to some quite interesting situations with meaningful choices in the end. Main story is nothing special as I didn't find it very interesting, but quests all over Act 1 definitely held my attention, especially Goblin and Druid War where you can choose sides.
Patriarch of Baldur's Gate who wished to marry a commoner.
I did not run away. A date was never set. There were complications. Before my fame, my patron, there was another woman. One I plan to spend my life with.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Companions are mostly great, but some are not that interesting. Gale, for example, is fantastic. What a character. Astarion is also quite interesting with his dark secret and overall demeanor. Shadowheart and Will, for example, were not interesting to me at all as I have found them quite bland. We'll see how their storylines develop with full release.
Think of it as tribute. The kind a king might pay to a more powerful neighbor to avoid invasion. As long as I pay, there will be peace. But should I ever stop, along comes a war. I can assure you, the battlefield would extend well beyond the borders of my body alone.
Inventory management is much better here than in Divinity Original Sin 2, but there is still so much shite you can pick up which ends up cluttering inventory. Weight limits are also quite low, but we can send stuff to camp whenever we want. One amazing thing Larian has implemented is that whenever you click on any equipment slot on character screen, it will display all available equipment choices for that particular slot. Brilliant. I would still prefer one giant shared storage over each character having their own. One thing that is very annoying is controlling whole group through dungeons that are full of verticality and traps. In most cases that means using jump for each character individually with lots of grouping and ungrouping. Quite tedious and annoying at times. This needs improving. So my final thoughts on this early access. Larian were kind enough to let us play through whole Act 1, which definitely gives good picture of what works and what doesn't. I must say, the more I played, more I started loving the game. Now I can't wait for subsequent playthroughs to test more classes, builds and different quest conclusions. Considering the fact that Larian listens to feedback and that there is still plenty of time till full release, I'm predicting Baldur's Gate 3 to be a huge success, which can either stand toe-to-toe or surpass modern CRPGs such as Divinity Original Sin series, Pillars of Eternity series, Pathfinder and Wasteland. Anyway, that would be all. Thanks for watching.